Affirmative, General. All aircraft.
Oh my gosh. That was the weirdest scream. Oh man. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Are you doing great? You've been playing lots of that Star Fox
Oh,
Zero.
oh yes.
Oh yes. You've been
So
using
much Star Fox.
all those motion controls and doing barrel rolls in
Lots of
on your
barrel
couch.
rolls.
Yeah, like right over, just like your fiance, just like rolling over on the couch and just flipping out and trying to like really get into the immersive experience.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually been really getting used to the motion controls and haven't been too disappointed with it actually so far. I've been really loving the game. So,
Yeah, we
um,
so as I just mentioned, this episode will be going live on Monday alongside a review that we're going to be recording tomorrow on Sunday, the 24th, after we've had some time to play the game, probably beat the game, go through the modes, go through other things, try out different levels from different approaches, try out the amiibo functionality. I've already tried both of my amiibo, but I want to play with them some more and just see how they feel. And they don't change the gameplay, but they look cool. The Falco one looks really nice. And so we're going to be having all those impressions and like an in-depth review discussion on Monday for all of you guys to check out. We've been tweeting out a lot about the game to people that are talking about it, trying to kind of feed the conversation around Nintendo because that was our initial goal with our Patreon page and with our Twitter and kind of expanding and doubling down on Koppai with social media was to really create a community of people that love Nintendo. And so we've been searching those people out that are enjoying the game. And for those that haven't been enjoying the game, we've been trying to offer some tips and advice. And so if you're not enjoying the game, we'll have some more tips over on the actual review of what we found worked for us to make the game more enjoyable. Or I guess we could say right off the bat, like make sure you try to focus on one screen. I think that's a big help.
your tip of the Z targeting thing was like such a dramatic help for me for
Just
like
clicking it.
especially yeah for clicking it for just a second and then hopping back out of it because like especially during those chase scenes when like you're just in kind of free range mode and there's these enemies just kind of flying freely around and you're trying to like track these people and sometimes they might get a little lost if you just track for like one split second and see where they're at and then kind of
Yeah.
redirect yourself that way. It just makes it so much better because for some reason when I was first starting, it was just, I mean, there's a lot of controls to take in right off the bat, and sometimes you're switched to, other control schemes when you're into, your transformations that you go into. And so, I mean, there's just a lot to take in, and figuring out all of the different little tips that help make it work a little bit better. And sometimes I just get locked into that targeting mode and think that like you kind of had to stay in that for some reason, and I would just kind
Yeah.
of get stuck in there, like where I'd go in the targeting mode and then maybe think that it switched to a cinematic sort of view where you're supposed to be looking at your gamepad at this time, and so I didn't really realize that I could just cancel out of that and then just use the screen a lot
Yeah.
more than I had
Yeah,
been.
it
So
seems like they really push the ZL targeting. They're like, do this if you want to follow people, and it's nice, yeah, like to because especially in all range mode where there's, I mean, it's so cool, but also so confusing that you have all this space open to you
yeah,
because like you could be flying upside down, left, right, like it's just everything's everywhere, and so
hmm
to find an enemy and find out where you're supposed to be going can be really tricky. And ZL is kind of like a nice way to anchor yourself. But yeah, not stay in that. Or I had a boss fight that I did last night where I used ZL targeting and then would keep my ZL targeting on, but then press the minus button to switch my cockpit view up to the main screen.
uh-huh,
And that was really nice to like have to be locked on and have my cockpit on the main screen.
yeah,
Um,
definitely,
and I did that actually like I'd do that and I would shoot them and then they would like move or like there would be kind of like that whole typical Nintendo thing, like where you destroy the weak point, they freak out, they try to hit you, and then they move on to
yeah,
the next thing or something.
hmm
And during those moments where we'd kind of go back to a chase or go back to a dodge or whatever, like the back and forth dance that the battles are.
yeah,
Then I would press minus again, go back in a third person, undo ZL targeting, and fly away. And like once I found that rhythm and that cadence, not only was it really fun because it
yeah,
was like, okay, switch to cockpit view, switch into ZL targeting,
hmm
like you're just like kind of feel like Star Fox himself, like flipping all these switches, but then you just
right,
go back and you do get to see the grand scope of what you're doing. And so that's been the big tips I've been giving online, and people seem to be enjoying those. That like have
yeah.
responded a few hours later. They've been like, Oh, that's so much better knowing that I can switch my cockpit view up because they don't really tell you that.
Yeah,
Like,
I had no idea really. You kind of told me about that, and I was like, wow, really? Like, how do you do that? And yeah, you just told me to press minus, and also the pressing the Y to recenter. Um,
the reticle, yeah.
yeah, the reticle is like a really big thing that I think helps a lot when you're kind of like getting in the whole frenzy of
Hmm.
moving around. Just because we're gonna have the whole full review discussion on Monday, I thought there was kind of just it's like a couple little pros and cons. It's really nice that when you get into the game, like every single time you play it again, like when you set it down and get back into it, it's really nice that satisfying feeling of like getting to know it better. Like when you get back in, you
Hmm.
feel more confident and you feel like, okay, I've got this down and now I maybe can master this other little element of the controls. One maybe a little gripe, maybe a little con that maybe we'll get more into in the review is just that maybe the length of the game, which I understand it's Star Fox, it's kind of inherently supposed to be that way, but just one
Hmm.
of the gripes, like for a casual gamer, um, who picks up the game and maybe just beats it all in one playthrough or something like that, you know how gamers kind of
Yeah.
do these days, where they don't really give it the time and maybe they just play through it in one session and don't really feel like why would I go back and replay it when the controls were frustrating. So it really takes, I feel like, getting those couple few playthroughs in, and then especially
Yeah.
maybe I haven't done the training mode yet, but going into that training
I
mode,
hear
and
those are awesome. I've been
yeah,
getting lots of tweets that those are that people like that's the other big tip that I can't recommend personally because I haven't done it, but people are saying go through the training mode before you even start the game,
right,
like,
yeah,
which is weird because it's not like completely suggested to do that, but apparently that's like a really big help and stuff. And so I would recommend doing that if you're having more difficulty. I think the game does encourage uh, going back through. Like they have lots of different paths and lots of different missions,
hmm
and so
And what a
uh,
cool co-op like system that they've come up with, I think too. Like they really made it if you have somebody that would be willing to play co-op with you, I think that they've done a really good system of having somebody pilot while the other it's kind of almost a Force Awakens Finn and
yeah,
yeah,
Finn and Poe Dameron.
yeah, when they're kind of he's flying and Finn is the one shooting and stuff. It's kind of that kind of feeling to it, and it's a
Hmm.
really cool co-op mode. So I
Yeah, we'll,
definitely,
we'll probably try that out.
yeah, for sure.
We have a lot of that's I guess another piece of mandatory housekeeping that we have. Um, because yeah, we want to try the co-op mode. We're gonna have some let's plays of that in May. Maybe doing a little bit of live stream where you and I can personally try that out together, and share our impressions on that. I probably won't have a chance for the review discussion to have that, and maybe you and Kayla could try or something.
Yeah, I
Uh,
almost asked her today to try that. We might do that before the
yeah,
review.
I watched the Nintendo Minute on it, and that looked really fun.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
But I guess the other piece of mandatory housekeeping is that we do have we have the review discussion going up on Monday, which will be along like when you're listening to this, it'll be up already. So just go ahead and go listen to that. If you're on iTunes, it'll already be there. If you're on SoundCloud, it should be there. And if you're on any of those, it's on YouTube as well, underneath our playlist for reviews or just on our main page. And so, or it should be on Twitter and all that. So you should be able to find it everywhere. We'll try to push it all at the same time. Um, but starting next week, from when you're listening to this upcoming Saturday, we should be having, and I don't want to confirm their name or what they're a part of and stuff because it's we just are still kind of nervous about like setting up guests because we don't know if they are able to completely commit yet. But we have a guest lined up for this upcoming week. They are a game designer, so that will be a really cool piece of insight if they are able to be on. And alongside their appearance, we're also going to be launching a bunch of other kind of new cool stuff that you'll find mainly on our social media. We'll have a little bit of mentions of it. We'll probably mention it in podcast episode 20, and we'll have all that up there. But be staying tuned to like just it'll probably kind of unfold throughout Sunday, May 1st, and then Monday, May 2nd is when we're going to be kind of launching all of that, and we're super pumped for it. We've been working a lot on it and kind of planning and talking, going back and forth about some of the new stuff that we want to do, some plans that we have for May, laying out the calendar, and trying to just take Koppai once again to the next step because March was kind of our initial, all right, we're taking a next step and doubling down on this and really putting ourselves out there, and now we're just going to do it even more so. And so that should be really fun and kind of like a cool new experience for us that we think fans of the podcast will enjoy, and we also think it'll be a chance to bring in a lot of new people to talk about Nintendo, like we've already been doing this weekend with the kind of Twitter initiative of just tweeting out to a bunch of people and trying to get conversation going about Star Fox, which may be why you're listening to this. You may be one of the people that I tweeted to, in which case, thank you, because that was really cool to hear people's thoughts on it. And once the conversation got started, it just kept going. So that was really fun.
Yeah.
But I think that's it.
Yeah.
Other initial impressions of Star Fox, yeah, we're both loving it.
Yeah,
Or
definitely.
I
I'm
don't know.
excited to get back into it. I haven't had a chance yet to play any today, but
Yeah,
after
same
this
here.
podcast, I'm gonna probably play at least one other mission. It's so cool, just the whole like digesting a mission. Yeah,
Hmm.
just everything about it and the nostalgia factor
They're
and
perfect length
organizing.
too.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. And then there's just each one has such a replayability, and then the transformations allowing you to go back. Cause like I went back to Corneria after getting like that transformation. What is it that the the land crawler or what is it called? I don't know all the names of these different transformations yet, but the one where you're just kind of walking along, kind of like as a little dinosaur bird thing, and you kind of hover, whatever that
Yeah,
is.
like the chicken walker, like the Walker Assault, I think it is.
Yeah. But yeah, just going back to that level and playing that again and being able to do that and go into different nooks and crannies and stuff and just really really cool the replayability and surely I feel like we're gonna be going through and trying to get the high scores and
Yeah,
compete
definitely.
with each
That
other
was
in
the other
that.
crazy thing that like you talked earlier about the casual gamer and how they may be like, oh man, this game is so short and stuff. But
Uh-huh.
I think the game immediately like says like you're gonna want to come back to this level because like you play it and you're like, dang, I just rocked it. I killed everyone. I beat that boss in like 5 seconds, like whatever. And it's like you got 170 hits out of 300. Like
Uh-huh.
that
Yeah.
is the gold standard, and it's just like what? And it's like, and you
Right.
got one medal out of the five that are in this level, and I
Mhm.
mean, it's just like, but I was nailing everything. Like you have to be like on point to get those, and it'll be tricky and hard to get those. But I mean, it'll. There's already been moments where I've like gotten a medal that I know is kind of out of the way, and I'm like, haha, like I discovered this, and I feel cool. It's kind of like once again that whole nostalgia factor, like people have been talking on Twitter, like it has very much so like a that kind of whimsical retro game where it's like you want to talk about it with friends, like how did you get that medal and how did you get to that planet and stuff. And people were concerned that like the kind of um, accessibility of all the levels, like that you can just immediately go back and replay them right after you beat them, would kind of diminish that. But I think it just makes it so it's super intuitive that if like you immediately like have the hunger and desire to go back and retry that level just again and again until you move on,
Uh-huh.
like yeah, they have that option for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've definitely. I mean, I've been on Twitter all weekend and been talking to people. We've definitely heard the concerns about the motion controls, and we'll talk about those more in the review discussion about what all that means. But